Setting up our meeting for Facebook Live. Directing. We do this. I can't tell if it's streaming live right now. Okay, are we live, I think?
I don't know. I'm looking.
Okay, I'm trying to see. If we are live right now, I'm sorry for everybody. This is our first time doing this, and I'm trying to figure out how we find like the chat situation.
I can't tell that it is.
Okay, I think I'm trying to see here. Okay, let's see. Okay, it looks like we are live. Okay, I think we are live. We are in fact live. Okay, so we have, okay, so I think that if there are people, they can ask questions in the comment section, I think. All right, cool. We are going to get started now. My name is Mariah Rockefeller. Looks like we are live. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, my name is Mariah Rockefeller, and I'm the curator here at the Art Museum of Southeast Texas in Beaumont, Texas. And today we are bringing our very first ever conversation with the artist. We're kicking off with Brandi Hamilton, who is the exhibiting artist in our Cafe Art series for local artists. And Brandi's exhibition, No Solid Surface, opened on July 2nd and closes on September 6th. I just want to take a moment really quickly to thank our director, Lynn Castle, our registrar, Caitlin Clay, and our PR coordinator, Kara Timberlake, who have all had a great part in this exhibition with Brandi. And we have an artist reception planned for Brandi September 3rd from 5:30 to 7:30, which is supposed to line up with our First Thursday event. It is on hold for right now, and keep following AMSET on Facebook to find out if that'll still happen. But if it doesn't, if we're not able to gather safely, then we'll make sure and plan something virtually so everybody can celebrate in some way with Brandi. So Brandi Hamilton, welcome to our conversation.
Thank you.
I'm going to give a little bit of a bio for everybody who doesn't know Brandi. Brandi attended Lamar University for 2 years before enlisting in the United States Air Force. After serving for 20 years, she retired as Major Hamilton and returned to her native Southeast Texas to pursue a BFA in photography at Lamar University, where she's currently studying with artists Keith Carter and Prince Thomas, who are also professors, and also both artists are included in our permanent collection here at AMSET, I'll just note. Brandi uses lens-based media to produce silver gelatin and digitally printed images. She combines imagery and ideas from her military career in space and satellite technology and her master's in humanities with the inherent influences from her small town childhood. So Brandi, I'm going to turn it over to you now and ask if you'll give everybody a little bit of information, talk a little bit about the inspiration for your exhibition, maybe a little bit about the title, No Solid Surface, and anything else that you'd like to talk about. And then we'll go into talking about a few specific works from the show.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Mariah. And I want to thank everybody at AMSET for all the help and letting me do this and making this available for the local artists. This is my first solo show, so I can't thank you enough for making this possible. So yeah, to talk about the inspiration, I got to take you way back to the 1980s when I was a little girl and the NASA shuttle program was in full swing. And I would lay in the living room watching TV with chin in hand, just mesmerized watching astronauts float across the shuttle bay. I mean, they were flying. And I thought, that is what I want to do. That is what I want to be. And I want to experience that for myself. And so that set the vector for what I would do. A very wide vector because it didn't go quite as planned, but I got close enough, I think. So when I started university, I started at Lamar, as Mariah mentioned, in an engineering program. And I had two very pivotal professors when I first began. The first was Dr. Jim Jordan, who is still there, the chair of the Earth Sciences Department. He had worked with Apollo era moon dirt and got to do research on it. And when I took a class from him, I also got to do some research shooting some simulated moon dust with a laser in research for if we ever populate the moon, it would help us with survival. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am already doing this piece of this story of humans living in space long term. I'm 19 years old and I get to be a part of the story. So I was already very proud of that. As small of a story as it was very big to me in my 19-year-old mind. And the second professor was Keith Carter. I took photography, and if any of you know, if you've taken a darkroom class, you know that when you put that sheet into the developer in that liquid and the image appears before your eyes, it's magical. And that was life-changing for me. I didn't know it at the time that both of those things would have such an impact, but they did. And I just carried it forward for the rest, continuously. Something wasn't going as well though. I was taking calculus and physics and not passing. And if you want to be an astronaut, you've got to have an engineering degree. And if you want to be an engineer, you have to pass these classes. And that was not going well for me. And I didn't know what to do because this was the only plan that I had. I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I just kind of sat in university for a little bit and looked around to see if anything would fall into my lap, any plan B. And actually it did. I found myself not long after that on a Greyhound bus heading west, not to Johnson Space Center, NASA in Houston, but to Air Force Basic Training in San Antonio with a follow-on training assignment in Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, which is the West Coast launch site for the US. So essentially, I got to go to trade school for space operations. And my first job, I was already commanding a weather satellite before I would have graduated with that engineering degree. So, I mean, following intuition really kind of worked out for me, unbeknownst at the time. So that is kind of the background that I am bringing to this work. And for the title, No Solid Surface, that comes from let me go back. So after the military, I realized that the military wasn't really, it fed my curiosity and I was always learning new things. But after a while, I had this growing desire to create. And that's what I learned I needed to get out, because in order to lead a creative life, I had to change and pivot and go a new direction. And that actually landed me back in Beaumont, back at Lamar, talking to the same two gentlemen, Dr. Jordan and Keith Carter, about what to do with my background and how to make art out of it. So I come back, and in researching some of the imagery, for applying my space background to some art, and also trying to find other people that have paved the way with science and art. I started looking at NASA website, where you can find a lot of images, and it's a government website. So you can use what the government has provided, which is what I wanted to do for some of this work. And I came across a description about Saturn, and a phrase that was used, which was no solid surface. Saturn has no solid surface, as does Jupiter. They are gas giants. And if I was still in the military, I would make a joke about an old commander or something being a gaseous giant, but I'm not, so I won't. But I thought, no solid surface, that's kind of just an incredible metaphor, I think, for where I was at the time, coming out of the military, trying to learn how to be an artist. And I found myself without solid footing and learning how to navigate this new life, which I also found fascinating as well as scary. But I think that no solid surface, and when the ground is ripped out from underneath you, it's this time of uncertainty. And I think that now I've kind of learned or relearned that uncertainty, if you can become okay with it, you realize that uncertainty is the key to novelty, and you need novelty to feed your curiosity and for creativity. So it's just this full circle loop. It's an orbit, if you will, coming back around for me. You're muted, Mariah. Are you talking?
Sorry, I'll figure this thing out. So, and just kind of touching really quickly on what you've just said, where you've just ended. A lot of the photographs, we're going to look at 3 photographs in particular. There are 14 total in the show, but there is a similarity in a lot of them where there's a circular kind of motion, there's a circular shape. A lot of the photographs are taken, as if, looking as if you're looking through a microscope. And so I kind of, just something to keep in mind. And if you want to talk about, maybe while talking about this piece, just that shape, how that reappears in your works. But so, yeah, we're going to talk about 3 pieces. So this first one, I'm going to let you pronounce it and talk a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah, Mariah and I were talking earlier. Sufficit unum, that's what I think. I haven't had Latin, but that's where we're going with. And if I'm wrong, please correct in the comments so I don't keep repeating it wrong. But this imagery comes from, as I said, I was looking at the NASA website, and also NOAA is a government agency, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, who now owns and operates one of the satellites that I used to work with, DMSP, Defense Meteorological Satellite Program. And we took weather pictures of the Earth. I wanted to add that into the pictures that I was creating. And I didn't personally have any pictures, but I knew that there were images I could get from that satellite I used to work on. And you will see that in the top half, kind of the background speckly light and dark spots come from the satellite of my first job, which was really exciting for me. And what you see is kind of, it's like Google Earth, but it's taken at night. So there is the dark kind of finger in the top left-hand corner, which may look like Florida, but I think it's actually Lake Michigan. I don't have my lakes geography down. But the light spot just to the left of it, that is Chicago. So whatever lake is right there. And so that kind of tells you the rest of it. You can kind of navigate your way around the rest of the upper northeast United States, and it's a light map. It's the light pollution, if you will. It's not necessarily light pollution, but it's the light given off at night. The big fireball in the center of the top center is a deorbiting satellite, and it essentially has become a meteor. And I wanted to add that because, again, that's something that factored into my career in satellite operations and what kind of happens at the end of a satellite's lifespan. They can come back into the Earth's atmosphere and burn up, hopefully completely on re-entry, or we send them way out into deep space, maybe or maybe not to ever hear from again. And then the rest, the people below, the more I look at this one, even I'm a little bit more fascinated with what's going on, because this is another image that I found on the NOAA website. And originally it was like a lightning strike. And the people are reacting in a range of emotions and actions. You have people running for their lives out of fear. They have no idea what's going on. Let me get the hell out of here. And, no questions asked. It's self-preservation mode. And you have some people who are completely oblivious to anything happening. And we all know those people, right? And then in the distance, there's two, I think they're men. I think it's two people looking at the events and pointing, like, I think of School of Athens, and one is pointing up and one is gesturing the other way. They're looking and trying to figure out what is happening over there. They're very curious and they want to know. I can just imagine they're going through all the things that they've already experienced to see if this new event lines up with any experience that they know and can conjecture what it could mean for how we live. And I think, again, you could replace that fireball with the lightning strike or a COVID pandemic or anything that is the unknown for us. And humanity, individuals will react in their own separate and different ways. And when we know that everybody has their own way of reacting, taken into context, I think it's very fascinating in personalities and how we will react overall to certain phenomena.
I think that's really great and very appropriate for our current everything kind of current situation. I'm in situations, or in this image, I keep looking for a figure who is like welcoming it, right? Who's just like waiting for it. And I feel like
that's a good, yeah.
Is a little bit like that, kind of trying to keep everybody calm, but I feel like we know people like that too. Can I move on to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is called Explorers, and the two people that I talked about in the last one, I kind of see the extension of their story. These are the curious ones. These are the people that, though they may be afraid of what could be out there, curiosity gets the best of them and they're on their way. Or they could be the stupid ones that have no fear and they're out there being the test pilots and faring open seas when you don't know what anything is at the end, just to go see for themselves what may be. And eventually and hopefully, they bring back more information for us. They bring back more knowledge. The ones who are more timid and still want to know. They're like Prometheus bringing back the fire, or leaving Plato's cave to give us the message. It's a timeless story, and that's the homage to our explorers and those who go forth and find out more information. So, you know, thankfully we have those that find that for us and can bring us back knowledge and wisdom and let us know what they have found. Now this one has these kind of repeating frames, if you will, and the outer one completely is kind of a marbleized effect, and I like to see these repeating patterns of nature, which is what I kind of try and add this textural artifact effect to it. And I see clouds or water, or, you know, the cream in my coffee is what I see. And the same thing in the next slide. The kind of the middle, nope, go back, sorry. I mean in the explorers. I mean in the glass plate slide frame, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
sorry.
So that middle kind of slide piece of this image is made from an actual glass plate slide that I have and I scanned, and I use that, or it is an artifact of that knowledge that people, our explorers, bring back, and then we use that to teach our future explorers, and it becomes the method of the time for the communication. And I just love kind of that progress, not only in what we know, but the progress in how we communicate it and what we leave behind to show what we did for that time. So it kind of grounds us in the past while hopefully being a message of progress and hope in future. And so this has one of those circular effects, as you were talking about, Mariah. And when I came back to Lamar and I was talking to Dr. Jordan, who didn't remember me. I took one class from him, but I wanted to go back and see what maybe he still had available, or if we could just brainstorm on what maybe I could use for this type of work. And little did I know at the time, he is married to Donna Meeks since I left 20 years ago. And I just thought that was just kind of an interesting tie, that the science department's married to the art department. And it literally, it's kind of crazy. So I went and talked to him, and he took me up to one of the classrooms and takes out this metal box, opens it, and there's a bunch of microscope slides. And he puts a slide into the microscope, and they are rocks sliced so thin that the light passes through them, so that you can see them as if kind of like a photographic, an old Kodachrome slide. And I look in the microscope and I'm like, it's just this brown and beige rock. I'm not really sure that's what I'm looking for. And then Dr. Jordan flips this switch, and that brown and beige turns into these iridescent blues and greens and pinks, exactly what you see on the slide. And I thought, oh my God, this is what I'm talking about. And as I'm looking at it, it starts to occur to me that I'm looking through a microscope, but this looks like a planet. And in fact, it's a geological sample, which could have at one time been a piece of a planet. Like it is, it's all the same. And so these overlapping ideas of what matter is and where it was in the past or where it could be in the future just all comes crashing together. It's like a big bang of awe and you know, enchantment for me. And that moment of flipping this light, what is going on is the light gets polarized, and that's what the microscope does. So if you have those sunglasses that are polarized and you look up at the sky and it's kind of light blue, and you turn your head to one side or the other and it turns dark blue, that is an effect of polarizing the light. And you can use that in old school camera filters as well, because it cuts down on the glare. But it's techie science. And in this like brown and beige, bland looking rock, it turns the ugly duckling into this beautiful swan of a rock sample. And that circle, you look at it and you don't know if you're looking at a planet or some kind of, heavenly orb body, or this tiny little rock sample that you can hold in a glass slide. And I find that magical and enchanting. And I think that for me, that is the kind of feeling that I look for now to kind of transcend the heartache, the things that I look for, to make life just exciting and worthwhile. It's the uncertainty and the magic that happens for me.
And so, Brandi, can you talk for a second? Because I remember when we were looking at your photographs when you brought them in, you talked a little bit about this piece, and correct me if I'm misspeaking, but regarding the title swaths and how it related directly to your experience working in the military, and how and I'm going to let you talk about it, but the bands, if you could talk about that for a second.
Thank you. Yeah, so think again about Google Earth. It's the satellites that take the pictures. We all know that, but we don't necessarily know how they all get stitched together. Imagery satellites take pictures and they can only see so much of the Earth at a time. And they take pictures kind of in a panoramic view. And that's how I wanted to show the difference of this rock. So for example, a satellite will take this panoramic view, and that gets stitched together in software. And then when it comes back around the Earth, like if this is the Earth and the satellite, it comes back around, it takes a panoramic view in a different spot. And eventually all those get stitched together. So those paths are called swaths. And there's the title.
And the thing, and we'll see a little bit more of it, the next slide we have is a video that you created in 2018 in Prince Thomas's video art class, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that we're going to open it up for questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. But something to think about as we watch the video is I'm really constantly excited and engaged with your work in the way that you merge layers of perception and reality, and how you kind of you merge and separate at the same time. And it's almost like looking at this piece at swaths, how immediately it looks almost like a planet, right? We think it's a planet, we get the feeling of a planet from the shape, but once we start to peel back the layers of knowledge, kind of figuring out what the piece is actually, we not only get more excited and interested in the work, but it's almost like we learn a little bit more about our own surroundings, tiny and really kind of macroscopic too, like in the universe. So I think what I'm going to do now, if it's all right with you, is I'm going to switch to the next slide, and we're going to play your video, Music of Magnetism, Illumination Matter. And this video is 1 minute and 2 seconds. And again, anybody's free to type questions in the chat box. And then after this video, I might have a couple of questions for you. And if anybody else does too, we'll open it up. Does that sound okay? Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about this real quick then?
Yeah, please do.
So this is using a lot of the same, all of those same geological samples from the geology department at Lamar through the microscope. And the sounds that you'll hear are sounds recorded, not audible sounds, but emissions recorded from space, from NASA satellites, and then they've been processed so that we can hear them. So just listen to me, again, it's like, what is that sound? And it's coming from outer space. And I just find it literally awesome.
Okay, I'm excited to see. Hopefully this works here. I love that every time. It just feels like it's almost like it creates vibrations when you watch it. And people, people can see that shape again that we were talking about, just to reiterate. Now, I have a quick question for you. Can you talk about maybe just pretty briefly some of your artistic inspirations at all? I mean, I know you and I have kind of talked about some things, but maybe if you want to share.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, if a lot of Beaumont people know who Robert Rauschenberg is, I left Beaumont without knowing who he was. And it surprises me that I discovered him in Berlin, and I was just drawn to this piece from across a museum gallery. And I walked over to it, and they had on the little card next to it, Robert Rauschenberg from Port Arthur, Texas. And I was absolutely floored that from that far away, a person born with, the childhood that he had here could draw me. To me, that's just another instance of this wonderful world and inexplicable to me. Another artist that I love is Joseph Cornell, and the boxes, because they're so textural, and he uses space and science and those types of things in his work. And I find anything that you just want to put your hands on and play with, if it looks like a toy, I want to figure out how it works. And Joseph Cornell has a lot of that type of work, and I aspire to that.
And I think it was when we were talking about the sufficit unum, I was thinking about, I mean, kind of literally image-wise, the short film from 1902, A Trip to the Moon, that has that really, the big kind of iconic image of the moon kind of just hanging in the middle there. But there really is, I think I really like hearing you talk about Joseph Cornell, because there really are ties to kind of not only surrealism, but fluxism, Dadaism, where you have a playfulness with not only playing with the materials, but the subject matter and your inspiration behind it. And I think that's always really exciting to be able to uncover each of those little things with your work. And I'm just really, really excited to have your show here. And I hope everybody's able to see it. It is up until September 6th, and our museum is open with precautions. We have temporary hours, Monday through Friday, 10 to 3, Saturday, noon to 4, and we're closed on Sundays. And again, we do have an artist reception planned for September 3rd, 5:30 to 7:30 to correlate with our first Thursdays, but as that is kind of up in the air, whether it's safe to gather or not, we may do something virtually. So if everybody can stay tuned. And these are available for purchase, all of the pieces in the exhibition. We have a price list at the front desk. If you come to the show, just ask the front desk for a price list, and they'll list the prices and direct you to Brandi. But I will tell you that they are very reasonably priced, and Tina you won't beat me to my favorite one. But Brandi, is there anything else that you want to talk about the show, or anything we haven't covered?
Well, I'll say, if you can get to the museum, there's two really interesting artists that I love that are up right now too, Patrick Turk and Kahana. How do you say her name again?
Yes.
Yeah, they're very experiential, and it's like walking into this, again, this room of, you don't know what's going on and you just want to play and look. And especially Kahana's work it's these just delicate pieces that are floating from the ceiling, and I just want to go play and bat at them. And Patrick's work has a bunch of lenses looking at just different scenes from historical prints and art, and like looking through microscopes, you're looking at all these different images, and both of them are very playful. So that's the only thing I have to add. So go see my work and go see their work if you can. And AMSET is being super safe.
I'm actually really happy to hear you make those connections, because Caitlin and I had been talking about that, how it really is interesting to have the Patrick's exhibition up with yours, and they really do relate. Tina has asked a question of where we can see more of your work, and I'm putting a link to your website. Would that be the best way for people to see more of your work?
Absolutely. Yep. Just brandihamilton.com.
Okay. Got it there for you, Tina.
Thanks, Tina.
And if anybody has any questions, we'll stick around for one more minute. But I just want to thank everybody for coming to our very first ever conversation with the artist. Our next is planned with Patrick Turk on August 6th. And after that, we'll have a talk with Kana Harada, joined by Patrick Kelly, Executive Director and Curator of Exhibitions at the Old Jail Art Center in Albany, Texas. And that'll be August 13th at 5 p.m. So we hope everybody will join us for that. We had an opening reception for Patrick Turk and Kana Harada planned in March, but obviously that didn't happen. So we are taking everything virtual with that, since we're not able to gather. So we hope everybody will be able to join us for that and meet the artists and chat with them and learn a little bit more about the shows, but also come on in if you feel safe and comfortable. And we hope to see everybody soon. And Brandi, I think that's it. We don't have any other questions.
Well, thank you again for everyone showing up, and Mariah for doing this.
Of course, yeah, this was really fun. I think this was a successful inaugural Facebook in the beginning.
Are we still live though?
Oh yeah, we are. I'm gonna end it. Another question.
Okay.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
And I'll figure out how to do this.